Hi everyone, welcome back. Laure here, and I was joined with Bwipo after the first victory of the split. Wow, I mean, what does it mean to you to grab this one today?
It's just confirmation that we still can win. I think the most difficult part about losing 4 games in a row is that we just came off the defeat at the World Finals, right? And I think, at least for me, that's still in my mind. So the last 7 competitive games I played, or last 6 if you count 2 for the World Finals, were all defeat. So winning this one means that I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah,
and cheering you up, which you guys need at the moment. I'm gonna be honest, you had a rough start. I mean, what happened here for the last 4 games?
It's difficult to say. I feel like, honestly, Fnatic didn't really have much of an identity. I think that a lot of things that what happened at Worlds was, honestly, a lot of random things happened and we just ended up profiting from them in the games. Like, I don't feel like we were ever as a team really good at making a rock solid plan and playing around it. It was more like at some point someone's going to make a big play, or at some point something's going to work out. And that's what happened at Worlds. Also with the fact that a lot of the new champions that were coming in, like Victor suddenly showing up, was very favorable for my champion pool specifically, and other people's as well. So that type of confidence in the lanes, especially for me, is difficult. Because right now I don't feel like I have an advantage in my champion pool, and I feel like these are the matchups that I feel super strong on.
Okay, and hopefully the meta will change soon enough. I mean, outside of what we see on stage, how is the mood between the team?
Honestly, we understand why we're losing. Okay. So I think that's a pretty big deal for why we keep up the mood. Sometimes it's a little bit depressing and losing the same way over and over again, but we're getting through it. We're fixing the issues, and I think that's a really big deal. I also feel like everyone individually can eventually give more, because we just came off the, you came off the finals, you go back to EU, and then it's a fresh start, right? And you just don't have, I don't want to say the drive, but the work ethic needs to be built up again from the ground up, I feel, in Fnatic right now, and we're busy with doing that. So I think we're getting there. You're
going to have another challenge tomorrow facing Misfits. I got to ask, how do you think this one will go?
Honestly, I mean, I'm not going to say we're going to lose. I'm pretty sure we're going to win. I'm actually pretty confident. I think that given what we're good at and what we're not so good at, I don't think Misfits is a team that will necessarily exploit us as long as we play smart. I think that we lost a lot of games in the early game by stupid things happening early game, like level 1, level 2, just invades going wrong, whatever. And these make games way harder than they should be and make us look way worse than we actually can be. So as long as we avoid that, I think it's fine, because to be honest, Misfits kind of wins games off of that too. So it's a combination of us losing games to that and then winning games of that. So I feel like if we avoid that, it can be pretty good. I think they're a strong team, but honestly, stylistically, I think we match up pretty well. I just look forward to playing my boy Paul.
I wish you good luck on that. And yes, we'll be playing against Paul tomorrow. I hope we'll have some more time to talk about it. Thank you very much for joining me after this first victory. And for more on the upcoming game, let's send it back to Trevor.
Thank you very much, Laure. And wow, fantastic interview from Bwipo. Some frank discussions there. Just to quickly announce, key player of the game, it is Reckless. He got 63% of the votes. I think capping off with that pentakill, definitely one of the big reasons. But takeaways there from Bwipo, I mean, some bold statements.
Oh, man, there's actually so much to break down about what he just said. It was almost like he seemed positive in the interview, but he said so many things that are kind of sad. Like this.
We're going to have a lot to talk about.
So much. But I think I do want to highlight Reckless. I think I was so ready for him to be back that I was like, yes, Reckless! And at the end of the day, it's Rogue being very far down, Reckless being very far ahead. But I think if you are a Fnatic fan, or if you're someone that wants to see Fnatic rise up again, it's a good look when this man can still get a pentakill and when the team can set him up to do so.
And it's very interesting that in the interview, Bwipo was talking about, a lot of those things going wrong in the early game, because we are in such a snowball meta, and they felt that they had a bad read on some of those early game decisions. In that game, it almost felt like it was a very tight, knuckle grip Fnatic of, okay, don't do anything, don't throw it all away, just scale, we'll be fine. Let's go and rely on our team fighting and our ADC.
I was nervous in the early game, but Fnatic pulled it out. All right, let's look ahead to our next match. It will be Misfits Gaming looking to get this hype train back on the tracks as they take on exceL Esports. Now, Misfits Gaming, they suffered their first loss to Vitality last week, and while it started good for Misfits, boy, oh boy, did they get steamrolled as that game played out. I have a question for you, Frosk. Should Misfits go back to playing around the bot lane? because they tried to play around top last week, and it left me a little disappointed.
I mean, yeah, sOAZ got a lot of that attention, and frankly, I'll just say yes because it's the easy answer. Do what works. Like, don't fix it if it's not broken. But ultimately, with so much pound-for-pound talent in this Misfits roster, you expect that, like G2, they're going to learn how to carry through other positions on the map, whether that's Maxlore, Febi, or sOAZ.
And this is the team you can just expect to bounce back. They should just keep on winning. They did look very strong, and it's hard to imagine a single game breaking them. We were lucky to have sOAZ and Maxlore on Euphoria. They said this did not affect their mental game. They're still feeling good. And when you look at those stats, they are still fantastic, Quickshot.
Yeah, kills at 15, goal difference at 15. 63% of their gameplay time is spent with a major lead. So it's pretty indicative of their 3 wins out of 4 games played, how well they've played. Let's turn to their opponents, because it is going to be the UK underdogs of exceL Esports. They're looking to continue proving they are capable of making some big plays and trying to take down the Titans of LEC. Last week, exceL really surprised me by giving G2 Esports their most difficult match of the split so far, and I want to see if they can do the same to Misfits.
I'm going to steal a page out of Maxlore and sOAZ's book. When they were on Euphoria, they talked about this idea of limit League of Legends, that you play to your champion's absolute maximum capacity, the ability to outplay the max amount of damage that you can do. I feel like exceL are also playing limit League of Legends. You know, between high-impact players like Caedral and exceL, these are guys that are always looking for opportunities to make big plays. They will always go for the shot. And yeah, they'll miss it and they'll have egg on their face, but when it hits hard.
So what you're trying to say is high risk, high rewards?
Absolutely. Playing to your mechanical limits is huge. The sad thing is that against a team like G2 just have better mechanical players. Misfits have shown some weaknesses, though. They can potentially be exploited. If they focus around the long lane, if they don't support their bot lane, it does feel like there might be some avenues for exceL.
I will say, though, that exceL's bot lane, I think, is probably one of their weakest links right now in terms of consistency, whereas Misfits is so powerful. I think if exceL really want to try to hit Misfits, it has to be between Caedral and exceL in that mid-jungle duo.
Okay, so this isn't a free game for Misfits, but let's not be disingenuous. They are the heavy favorites.
Super heavy favorites.
You specifically talked about Caedral. I want to discuss the 2 British junglers in this matchup. Caedral is the man that, in my opinion, plays for himself. He plays to get ahead and try and lead his team to victory, whereas Maxlore has been a little bit more, let me get my lanes ahead, get them to carry. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I think it's a fair assessment. My biggest concern right now on the patch is that Caedral, my favorite pick to see Caedral on right now is the Nocturne, and Froskurinn talked about it in our cast, but you get level 6 a minute later, which means that's 1 more minute in the early game where Misfits don't have to care about that champion. That is not a great sign.
And I think that actually gives the edge to Maxlore here. You know, he can grab things like the Zac, like the Sejuani, like the Nunu. We even saw a Camille ban if he does want to try to go toe-to-toe with Caedral because he has that champion in his wheelhouse. I just think it's slightly easier on the 9.2 jungle changes for Maxlore to shine versus Caedral losing a lot of those resources.
Okay, so there we go. A little bit of Misfits favorite. I'm going to turn the attention back to exceL now. We've talked about some of the options that they have and some of the keys to victory, if you will. Frosk, what specifically, in your opinion, should we see exceL looking to do to try and unlock Misfits, unseat them? I mean, don't lose bot lane's a good start, right? But what else would you like to see?
I think you actually have to take a page out of Team Vitality's book, and I think you need to get a strong matchup in that mid lane. It was Jizuke's LeBlanc versus Febiven's Galio that was really the big breaking point, and I think you can do a similar thing with exceL, but it's just not as consistent as someone like Jizuke. So Caedral, exceL, 2v2, just make sure you blitz it at Febi and try to hit Misfits there, because I think challenging them in the bot lane is very dangerous.
All right, well, let's find out whether or not they can do it. As we do head over to the casters, let's check in with those 2 British junglers to see what they think about tonight's showdown.
Thank you very much, Trevor. I was joined by Maxlore and Caedral ahead of their game. You will be facing each other in a few minutes. Now, we know that you may share the same nationality, but you're most certainly different in playstyle. Maxlore, what makes you different?
So obviously the playstyle difference is, I'll let you handle this one, Caedral.
I mean, I think Maxlore's a bit of he's quite a defensive jungler. I think he won't walk past the river most likely in this series, and yeah, I'm a lot more aggressive.
Ooh, you're so brave, man. I respect that. Okay.
Do you think he has what it takes to be the best UK jungler in here?
In here?
Yeah, in the LEC.
I mean, unless if I get into a car crash, I don't think so.
Now, I know you suffered your first loss last week. Do you have what it takes to make them lose again?
I mean, I think we can beat them, yeah. I mean, they call themselves a super team, but I'm not impressed so far.
I don't think we do, but everyone else does. But
okay.
we're a team.
Okay, you're just a team.
Yeah.
In the end, can you make the jungle your jungle and take down exceL today?
Of course, I'm the jungle king, mate.
Well,
in his streams.
Good luck to both of you. Nice some banter over here. And up to the caster for the game.
Ding!
You have arrived at Many time! Let's go! League of Legends, that sort of stuff. I'm Medic Chamberlain, this is Andrew Vedius Day, and we are here for exceL up against Misfits.
Yeah, should be a good game. Misfits, they did suffer their first loss last week up against Vitality. We just heard it from the two junglers themselves, and strong words coming out from Caedral. He believes that Maxlore, a little bit more of a defensive jungler, much more towards his side of the map, won't even cross the river, is what he claimed. Question is, will Caedral be able to punish that? Will he be able to utilize that, as he is kind of the core kind of go guy for the side of exceL?
Right, especially since we're on 9.2, where you're getting less XP and less gold from your jungle as well. Like, Maxlore farming the jungle might actually just be a better thing for Misfits if they are trying to get towards those sort of more utility-orientated junglers. But we will have to wait and see exactly how the game plays out on this new patch.
Well, I am expecting both bot lanes to try and guarantee themselves the stronger 2v2. Usually in the draft, what you'll see for both sides is a high priority on things like the Rakan or the Alistar, especially the Lucian is a very valuable pick for both these teams. And I think that what they really value is just having a strong bot lane. And I really like Froskur's point. I think the big difference maker last week for Misfits was that Febiven was put behind against Jizuke's LeBlanc, and I wonder if exceL will look to do the same thing today.
Have to keep our eyes on that mid lane, but we are on into picks and bans. exceL on the blue side have a 100% win rate on blue side so far in the LEC, beating Rogue the only time they've played there, and they've got rid of the Draven, AD carry ban, the Jace and the Akali, whereas Cassiopeia and Aatrox are the bans for Misfits Gaming.
So right now the priority is on the Lucian. Remember, we are on 9.2, so the Rakan value is very much likely going to drop pretty substantially because the nerfs were quite hefty, to say the least.
They were devastating, Vedius. I'm no longer good at solo queue or at League of Legends. That's what's happened to me here. There's another bot lane ban, though, with the Lucian getting removed.
So, first pick priority, naturally going to be the Urgot. No surprise there. You can obviously flex it to both mid and top, should you want. I believe exceL even played Urgot mid in week 1 of the LEC. Now, this does leave things like the Alistar open for Misfits. This is something that they often like to grab relatively early in the draft. Having a look at what else might be available. Sejuani is another big jungler that's very high on the priority list in the current meta, and I'm sure Maxlore would love to get his hands on it as well.
Both these junglers have played Karthus as well. It's on the cards for them if they want it, not banned out in that first rotation. Instead, it's going to be the Kennen.
Interesting.
Interesting to see the priority on that. Of course, sOAZ has played it once, and Misfits won with it, but so strange to see that as the first pick in a rotation.
I agree. Like, why not save it for the third rotation instead? You know, try and guarantee yourself 2 strong picks like the Alistar and Sejuani, and then save the Kennen for later. But I guess they really wanted to value it. And interestingly, even putting even more priority on getting their AD carry as well. So, kind of taking me back a bit. That's not the word I'm looking for. It surprised me, is what I'm looking for.
I think we're both slightly taken aback by it, Vedius.
That's what I'm trying to say. Good job.
Thank you. It's as if we're a synergistic duo. But there is the Alistar. That's being taken for kaSing. Alongside it, Jeskla is going to have the Sivir, so a scaling AD carry down towards that bottom side.
Okay, Sivir typically does pretty well in lane against the Kai'Sa. In teamfights later on, in like grouped up teamfights, Sivir is definitely stronger because of her larger area of effect damage. And I think early on at the beginning of Season 9 as well, she got buffed to her Q, which means that it just overall does more AoE damage. But Kai'Sa is a much stronger duelist, and her single target damage is much greater thanks to her passive. So in terms of the situation where they ever might find themselves in a 1v1, 2v2 or a skirmish style, Kai'Sa's definitely going to have the edge, and Hans Sommer loves those kind of mechanically intensive carries as well.
And a worry always is when you have the Kai'Sa that you're going to get pushed back in the lane, you don't really have that lane presence, especially against a Sivir who has the ricochet, can push the lane, but we see Misfits mitigate some of that with the Morgana pick.
It's very, very true. So I'll be quite interested to see who's actually able to get the push in this lane. I'm kind of leaning more towards Hans Sommer and Gorilla because of how they like to play more on the aggressive side. The Black Shield makes it harder for the Alistar to find those successful engages. So I think right now, Misfits have strong pushing top. They have the ability to play push bot, depending on how aggressively they choose to play the matchup. So with already 2 strong lanes to play around, Misfits kind of getting what they want so far in the draft.
As we're getting to the second ban phase, we're starting to see some of those mid laners isolated from the pool. Lissandra, incredibly, just a ubiquitous mid laner at the moment. It's seen in every single draft, and the LeBlanc taken away by exceL.
Do want to note how we've seen a much lower priority on things like the Irelia. I thought that she would still be very valuable even after the changes, but it seems like right now on the LEC stage, they want to put less focus on getting that champion. But with these bans coming through, with things like LeBlanc and Lissandra often being considered quite good picks into her, maybe Misfits say, well, you know what, we can actually grab this. We have AP damage up top. You know, getting AD damage in the mid would actually benefit us quite a lot.
And of course, kaSing can go towards that AP rounded out build as well. So you getting a bit of AD in that mid lane would make a lot of sense. Like the Olaf ban here for Misfits, you know that you have quite a bit of CC on your side, so you get rid of someone who can mitigate that. Galio removed by exceL, still strong. We talked about it a little bit in Ready Check. Although he has been nerfed, he does still have a very big impact, especially teamed up with something like the Kennen.
His burst and overall damage has definitely been lowered, which made a lot of people very happy. And then surprisingly, Misfits then going to put priority on getting the Sejuani in the jungle. Good engage, good scaling, fits very nicely with the team fight composition that Misfits have kind of got for themselves. He can group up with both top and bot to set up some pretty effective ganks, and they're saving their mid laner for the counter pick. So as we said, Febiven, he wanted to try and get that favorable matchup because that's where they struggled against Vitality last week, and they're going to be guaranteed it this time around.
Well, I have to see where exceL decide to put that Urgot. There is still that flexibility. With the Gragas, you would assume that's going towards the jungle.
Yep.
And now we'll see kaSing picking either a top laner or a mid laner here to round out exceL's composition.
So what do they look to blind pick? We have seen Victor being picked as sometimes a pick into the Kennen. I don't know how much of a fan I really am of it, but it is one possibility.
Things like the Zoe for exceL as well. He's so comfortable on it.
Yeah, but I think it's such a dangerous blind pick, and there are so many counters to it that I wasn't really expecting it to be super high priority. Interestingly, going for the Yasuo, it's kind of a throwback to exceL's Yasuo one-trick days when he first joined the European League. He was known for his Yasuo and LeBlanc going off onto a side lane and dying a huge amount. But over the years, he has definitely improved on the champion, and that is more than likely going to be sent to the mid lane.
Looks like we're going to have the Sion. Oh, last moment switch there from Gorilla towards the Irelia. So although we saw, you talked about it, Vedius, you said they have a lot of AP damage on the rest of their team. Pick yourself up some AD.
This surprises me. I swear most pros have often told me that Yasuo is a really good matchup into the Irelia because you outscale, you can actually out-trade her in the laning phase, and you can win wall her E and her ultimate. So like, there are a lot of
Feels
things,
pretty strong. Feels pretty good.
There are a lot of things that Yasuo can do to kind of come out ahead on this matchup. Like you outscale on a side lane. Your team fighting is arguably stronger on the Irelia, but I guess Febiven feels confident in the matchup. We'll see how things play out. My memory seems to suggest that Yasuo does win out on this one, but still, Misfits at the very least have two pushing lanes with the Kennen in top lane, and then because they have the Morgana paired up with the kaSing, they have a lot more pressure in that 2v2. So I still think that in terms of the early game laning phase, Misfits are the ones that will be generating the lead, but that's okay for exceL because they do still have very strong scaling. Sivir, Yasuo, really good in the late game, especially in these 5v5 situations. And they have a lot of setup with both the Alistar and the Gragas. So even if exceL fall a little bit behind in the laning phase, it's not the end of the world. What's more important is that the goal difference doesn't become astronomical before they can get to a point where they can leverage like the 3 items of a Yasuo and a Sivir.
Well, we saw last week Misfits falling to Vitality after switching up their bot-centric playstyle to a top-centric playstyle. Here, they had the counter-pick mid. Maybe that strategy won't pay out for them once again if we see the matchup go the way we expect it to. exceL, on the other hand, last week had a very strong performance versus G2, but still didn't pick up a win on the week. I'm sure they'll be wanting to rectify it today, although they are against some pretty tough opposition.
They certainly are. Misfits, even after their loss, are still a very strong and scary team that you have to respect. This roster is stacked, and they'll be looking to bounce back coming into week 3. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be jumping onto the Rift. I'm curious as to what level 1 shenanigans may occur.
Yeah, you never know if something's going to happen, right? Because you do. There's always this slew of options, right? Do you just line up, form this line of scrimmage that we talk about, where all 5 members of your team are just set up across the river to spot out any invades? It seems to be what's going on. sOAZ, of course, running the Kleptomancy on the Kennen, something we've seen pay off for Kennens in the past. Didn't get a Potion of Rouge for himself this time, so won't have that early advantage. But Caedral should just be able to run away from him now.
Yeah, just a bit of poke coming out. Misfits will be able to move into the enemy jungle. Looks like they haven't dropped any vision down for the time being. But again, want to reinforce what the things like Maxlore will be looking to do in the early game. Now, the thing about Maxlore is he, in every single one of his games, has ganked before the 5-minute mark. Literally every game. And I feel like if he's going to gank anywhere, it would be, I'm going to say bot lane.
Really? You think he'd go to the bot lane?
Now, no, the reason why I say that is not because he usually always goes bot lane, but it's because that's where they have the best setup. But I did realize after I said it, that's probably not that great of a prediction, because in 3 of his 4 games, he went bot lane at around level 3 or level 4. So, but you can see starting on the top side, Menic, it's a strong indication that he's going to head towards his bot side of the map. It also means that Gorilla and Handsome get to the lane earlier, so they'll get that earlier level 2. And everything is kind of going towards my fantastic prediction, Medic.
It was a stellar prediction, and we'll see if it's correct as the game progresses. Oh, he's gone towards the mid side, Vedius.
Whoa,
this is not bot.
This isn't a gank. He's making his way bot. See? Okay. Keep your eyes on him. He's going to go for the Scuttle Crab. Look, the ping's coming out. Another prediction. I'm just on the ball today.
On the other side of the rib, we do have Caedral Maxlore matching up into Maxlore. Now, Caedral has been sort of one of the shining lights, the rays of hope for this exceL team, because nothing seems to happen without him. 100% kill participation at the 15-minute mark, high kills and assists as well, 4th in the league, and tends to have a gold lead as well on his jungle.
He's a pretty aggro jungler, and in week 1, he was a little too trigger happy, but in week 2, he definitely showed a lot more control and restraint. He had 1 Nocturne game, and he had 1 Karthus game. The Karthus game, he couldn't really get rolling, but in the Nocturne game, he was finding plays left, right, and center, constantly pick after pick. And on a Gragas, you can definitely make stuff happen in the early game, but that's what we need to see. It's not like they need to snowball the early, because we already talked about their composition really turns on, or like the 3 items, that's when they're really at their strongest. But he has options. He can gank bot lane. He can very easily, at level 6, set up a play around mid with the ulti, with the E into a Yasuo ulti. There's a lot of kill potential there with the 2 versus 2, so Caedral does have options. It's just about whether or not he looks to utilize any of those.
I think the big thing as well is, although he might not want to be initiating ganks, having counter gank potential is very important on the Gragas as well. We've seen it pay off already today. Jankos counter ganking self-made in our first game, leading to G2 getting a lead.
Now look at what exceL and Caedral are doing. They've grouped up, given that exceL had the push in mid, and he actually helped Caedral try and secure the Raptors. I'm not entirely sure if he secured them or not, but that's the kind of thing you want to be seeing from your mid lane. You utilize your pressure to set up invades, and it allows you to kind of steal away enemy resources that much more efficient.
And that's what a pushing lane can do for you as well. In Picks and Bans, we talked about how Misfits should have push in the top lane and possibly have push in the bot lane. We'll have to see with the level advantage, they should have it for the moment. But when you push up the lane, it means your jungler can be that little bit more aggressive, can step forward a little bit further, and it allows you just to steal away these small advantages in the early game.
Yeah, I agree. So now we see Caedral making his way up towards the top side. sOAZ should have spotted him.
Engage, there's the disdain. Caedral with a follow-up engage, and sOAZ not going to flash away, doesn't want to burn it. First blood, exceL, and it's the UK underdogs who strike first.
Fantastic gank from Caedral. You know, Maxlore, we thought he would be the first one to gank. We thought he would go towards the bot side. He still has until the 5-minute mark to make sure the prediction is right.
30 more seconds.
I wasn't expecting Caedral to go top that early. You know, sOAZ had a massive wave built up behind him. If anywhere, that he was just going to push that in, go back to base, but he wanted to get a last bit of chip damage in, and he doesn't end up putting it off. So now we see Maxlore hanging around mid. Oh no, not mid.
Going towards mid, exceL needs to try and dodge away, uses the wind wall, but Maxlore has the flash. exceL flashes under the tower. They will get the stun lock, but exceL escapes for the time being.
So Maxlore, he did gank before 5 minutes.
Well, so 50% right. 50% of your
right.
prediction. It's a bit like when you try and predict the results of games as well.
Statspot
is doing too well for us at the moment.
Ooh, here we go. Febiven, remember to flash on exceL.
Getting a huge amount of damage down with Caedral there just in time though. exceL, the ignite not enough, but Febiven flashes forward for the kill and survives with the triumph. Gorilla there with the shield, and that's what Misfits want from their mid lane.
Damn. So Febiven at level 5 goes very aggressively onto exceL, knowing that he has the ignite, comes very close to getting a solo kill, and if it wasn't for kaSing and Caedral showing up, then that would have been a clean 1v1 in favor of Febiven. You think that's it, Febiven's gonna die, exceL's gonna get some health back from the level up or just from the kill itself, but then the flash in from Gorilla to provide that clutch save. Beautiful stuff coming out from Misfits, and they answer back on the kill board.
And we wondered in Picks and Bans whether Febiven with this counter pick or with this saved pick would be able to fight up against exceL. Well, he showed us exactly how he can do it with this.
So he lands the stun, which means that he can proc the Q twice. He just shreds through the shield, even though the passive has been removed on this patch. And then you can see he gets a little bit of health back from his runes. I forget the name. It's
Triumph.
Triumph, yeah. I thought it was Triumph from Raw or something, but yeah, Triumph is the name. And this is great for him, because we talked about how the mid lane should be, in theory, a losing matchup for Febiven. So what Maxlore did was he ganked early to make the matchup easier for him, and now he's actually sitting on 2 Doran's blades and working towards what looks to be a Phage as well. So now Misfits have 3 pushing lanes. Bot lane is doing fantastically. Top lane is a little even, obviously because of the death, it puts him a little bit behind, but mid is now winning as well. So Misfits should, during the laning phase, have control all across the board.
Yeah, such large leads in that mid lane and bot lane as well. About 20 CS in mid and the kill, of course, and a 15 CS advantage for the kaSing over the Sivir. We thought maybe the Sivir would have the push priority, but obviously this Morgana helping out that kaSing so much.
Yeah. Like what it is providing, and there is a 400 gold gap between both Febiven and Hansam. You can see it is in their favor, rather, is what I was trying to say. And yeah, Misfits, their main carries are looking good right now.
And with the gold being even, you might wonder, well, where's the 400 gold gap being made up? It's in the support role. It's about 400 gold on kaSing over Gorilla, which isn't really going to impact the game in the same way that a gold lead on your AD carry or mid laner will.
I agree, Medic, I agree. So now we just kind of enter a slightly slower pace of game. Maxlore has done his gank and he's like, my job is done.
Yep.
I can now just chill out in my jungle. He's going to work towards his first jungle item. Already completed a Cinder Hulk, rather. Caedral as well, working towards his Runic Echoes. And Misfits, they just want to keep the pressure up. They want to keep the snowball going. They want to try and utilize the pressure that they have in their lanes a little bit more. Maxlore now level 6. exceL has no flash. He gets stunned.
Febiven will go with the chase for a moment. They have seen Caedral coming in from the side here, and Gorilla up as well. So I think we actually might have been looking at exceL's vision there when I saw Caedral. No vision from Misfits up towards that top side, but Caedral's just going to come for the gank up here. sOAZ still has the flash. Expect no flash on him. Caedral just trying to force away the Kennen. Knocks him away, and he will flash to safety.
Will cost him a summoner spell, but exceL putting a lot of resources in towards the top side of the map. Does mean that both Jeskla and exceL will continue to struggle. Just slowing down. Drake, not alive, was secured the first one by Misfits, so we actually missed that one. Oh, it was just after the gank in mid, wasn't it?
Yep, they used the pushing in mid and the pushing in bot to be able to take away the Infernal Dragon, which of course, so good when you have things like a kaSing and Irelia and a Kennen on your team, getting all that extra AD and AP.
So, game's slowing down now. How's solo queue going? Good?
Yeah, so it's okay. I'm 4-4 at the moment in my placements.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's not bad.
Plat 2, getting about 70 LP a
Wow,
win.
Plat 2, that's actually very good.
What about you? How'd you do?
Not good, mate.
Yeah, I know, that's why I asked.
I went 2 and 8 in placements. Plat 3 right now. It's tough.
Is it still Nocturne mid all the way? Or?
I mean, you got to commit, you know? You can't give up when your chips are down. You got to keep fighting.
I think the problem is I commit to winning, and you commit to Nocturne mid.
Well, I mean, it's just going through a bit of a rough patch, you know? It happens at the beginning of every season, my friend. You know, we all have solo queue drought, I would say.
We do.
And I'm waiting. I also tried Nico. I thought maybe that's the champion that I can use to bounce back. My new one trick. Terrible champion. I hated her. I really didn't like her at all. I couldn't make her whatsoever. I don't know how the LPL pull it off. But yeah,
Didn't we see it bot lane in the LPL?
Yeah, they love it bot lane. They think it's really strong. So I don't know, but yeah, Nico, not a fun champion for mid lane for me.
I guess they just like huge amounts of team fights all the time. So if you have another champion,
that's true,
because you can just chuck your clone.
But she also like pokes a lot, right?
That's
her
true.
poke is really good, but her wave clear is really unreliable. Now, okay, back in game because we see 2 junglers heading towards top side.
Yeah, Caedral is here first. Has another ultimate available, flashes in, sOAZ trying to get away with the slicing. Maelstrom just stuns them both up, but with the ignite, that will be enough. exPEC picks up the kill, and it's a second good gank for exceL in the top lane.
Yeah, they already got the flash from sOAZ earlier on. Now, Maxlore was hanging around, but unfortunately sOAZ was so far up in the lane that it was so much easier for exPEC to get the setup, and he landed that in perfectly, just at the max range to allow Caedral to come in. He doesn't even use his ultimate, and now exceL have priority over the Rift Herald.
And it's one of the curses of pushing lanes. We talked about it in picks and bans. sOAZ has the pushing lane in the top lane, but when you keep pushing up, eventually the enemy jungler is going to want to come across and gank you. You can see Maxlore trying to force Caedral and exPEC off the Rift Herald here. We'll do it for the moment. Caedral comes back. looking for that smite fight. Knock away. The smite comes out. It's secured by, I believe that was Maxlore.
I think it was.
Oh no, it's Caedral. Caedral gets it. He picks up the Rift Herald there. Maxlore still on the chase, looking for the stun here. Caedral doesn't have flash, but has the body slam, so he's coming across as well. But expect we'll just a body block for his jungler, and that will be a very well played little bit of macro play there from exceL.
And it costs no summoner spells for exceL, obviously except for the smite. They managed to get the flash out from Maxlore, sOAZ TP'd back into lane. He couldn't find any kills because Caedral was able to get out of that situation, and the Rift Hold was secure for exceL. So exceL looking great right now towards the top side of the map. Bot lane is starting to kind of snowball out of control, which is one of the big avenues that Misfits still have, but you can see here, really good E from Expect. Isn't forced to use the flash. Caedral flashes in to just make sure that he lands that crowd control, and they very quickly find a kill. Again, Gragas in this early game has a lot of damage, especially with the Runic Echoes, so they're trying to maximize that, utilize that. But while things are going well for exceL towards the top side, Misfits mid and bot lane still heavily going in their favor.
Yeah, about 15 CS lead in that mid lane, 15 to 20, and about the same down towards the bottom lane as well, which is why the gold is so even. Now Expect just trading onto sOAZ once again. It's a lot of damage that's coming down. The Slicing Mountain will not lock Expect underneath the tower. And you can see, once again, Caedral. He knows where his bread is buttered. He knows the top lane is the place to be. Pops the Rift Herald, gets blocked behind it for a second. And now we'll just try and force sOAZ back once again. This is a lot of turret placings they're going to pick up.
But Maxlore trying to do exactly the same on the bot side of the map. Jeskla and kaSing are aware that they do not have the support from the rest of their team. Expect doesn't even have teleport available, so they're going to be forced to concede this. But at the rate at which exceL is going, they should be able to secure first tower of the game.
Yeah, the Rift Herald just giving you such a bonus in taking down these towers. Even through 4 bulwark stacks for those increased armor and magic resist on the tower, they'll still be able to take it. They do sacrifice the Ocean Dragon for it though. You know, Misfits will say, okay, we know your jungler's top side, we will try and play down towards this bottom side, and exceL actually rotate away and they say, okay, we can play towards mid now with our AD carry and support, or even look for the steal. Maxlore smites it away and will secure it.
No, that will be the final tower play down, but the issue that I'm now seeing for exceL is that all this gold has gone on to Hansama. He is now sitting at 1.2k over his AD carry counterpart, which is a big deal for not only one of the primary carries for Misfits, but also for just kaisa as a champion in general.
If you can get towards that Ginsu's quicker, if you can get towards Storm Razor quicker as well, you just have so much power. But there is also a 1,600 gold lead in the top lane.
Yes.
So how much impact can Expect have for this exceL team as they look towards these 2-3 item team fights that their composition's built around?
So one of the things about having Expect ahead now means that coming into the team fights when you have like exceL and Jeskla at 3 items, he'll be a lot more valuable than the Kennen should be. Because of the deficit that sOAZ has been put into, you expect him to be like an item or an item and a half behind in those mid-game fights. But again, the problem is that's compensated by the fact that Febiven is so strong and Hansama is so strong. The Trinity Force is already done before we even hit the 14-minute mark. So exceL are really relying on this scaling avenue that they have available to them, which is very much team fighting from the Sivir and the potential split pushing coming out of the Yasuo.
You mentioned Febiven, and I think we have to bring some attention to him and give him some praise, because in Big and Ban we thought maybe the Yasuo would be a good matchup into this Irelia. Last week he really struggled against Vitality, was put miles behind by Jizuke, but today he's leading in CS, he has that early kill as well, and he's looking much more like the Febiven of old.
Yeah, he certainly is. Jizuke versus Galio last week, not a fun matchup, but Jizuke really made his... sorry, did I say Jizuke versus Galio?
You did? I was going to leave.
Blanc versus Galio is not a fun matchup, especially when it's in the hands of Jizuke, and he definitely made Febiven suffer. So definitely having a much favorable time now. I love the early gang from Maxlore. Haven't really seen much jungle pressure from him outside of that, but to be honest, he hasn't needed to. He recognizes that sOAZ has been struggling topside. He's just abandoned him. He said, sucks for you. My mid lane and bot lane are winning, so I don't really care.
Don't gank losing lanes. That's another thing I've learned from solo queue recently.
Mentality. Don't try and save the losers, you know? You just got to play around the winners.
Well, 15 minutes in, we do have about a 600, 700 goal difference between the two teams. It's exceL who are ahead, and we wondered whether they could stop Misfits from absolutely snowballing away with these winning games. Caedral in there, Hansama with the flash away. The last breath from exceL did lock him up for the moment, and that's a summoner burn on the kaisa. Force back, and exceL don't really get too much out of it. but used 2 ultimates for a summoner spell, 2 summoner spells.
What they've successfully done is force one of the wave clear units of Misfits back. They now group up in mid lane and could look to siege, but of course, Handsome with the teleport will be able to rejoin. And while that is a big summoner spell that's unavailable, it means that in these teamfights, just having that heal will be very valuable. And Misfits are just kind of forced to play a little bit, I say, more defensively. They have so much vision control around the bot side of the map that Febiven's even pushing up to the tier 2. So, yeah, I agree. Misfits lost nothing.
Did you just agree with yourself as well?
No, I agreed with you in the because you originally started like exceL aren't going to get much off the back of it.
That's true.
So that was the point that I was trying to agree with.
I think just agreeing with me as a default standard is a good way for you to
Dangerous.
That's very true. Here we see Handsome jumping against Jeskla and Maxlore here as well. The heal from Jeskla will keep him alive for the time being, and kaSing trying to react, but already that tower's quite low. Caedral has the flank position, walks straight over a ward, and Misfits will realize that the Gragas is waiting in the wings. Just forces them back, tower very low, they got some pressure down towards the bottom side as well. And across the board, I think this is strong maneuvers for Misfits. They're not really giving up too much, they're getting little advantages where they can. They've even managed to get sOAZ back in the game, even on farm with expeC now.
Yeah, I mean, sOAZ is fine in this current state. I'm going to have a quick look at his gold. He is still 1200 behind expeC, so pretty much an item, more or less. But the Trinity Force being done for Febiven and Handsome are very close to completing the Rage Blade. These 2-item spikes for Misfits, very, very deadly, very strong, especially against this more scaling composition from exceL that much more relies on like the 3 items. But you also saw there the difference between a Sivir and a kaSing. In skirmishes and duels, so mobility means that the Sivir can't really trade against the kaSing, and that's why Handsome was more than happy to set up that dive, along with Maxlore being in his half of the jungle. And right now, I think the biggest difference we're seeing between the two teams is their utilization of vision. You'll notice that Misfits have set up full vision control around the bot side of the map, and that's because they're looking to play around Ocean Drake, looking to play around the mid tower, whereas exceL, the only place they can get vision is on the top side of the map. Without Baron being available, it doesn't matter much.
Last blood comes out, Gorilla goes golden, Handsome underneath the tower, great knockback, perfectly timed there from Caedral. Gorilla will pay for his misstep with his life, and now exceL are going to force down mid. Side lane's not pushed to the right position for Misfits. Febiven, of course, no teleport, so he can't join this fight, and exceL will claim this mid lane tower as their prize.
So that caught me completely off guard. Was focusing on how the fact that exceL didn't really have many avenues to play around, and then they actually got control over a very small amount of the bot side river, and so immediately punished Gorilla for overstepping. He didn't have his flash available, the setup was great, and exceL find themselves a kill and an Ocean Drake.
Yeah, someone is still burnt from the last time they made a play around that mid lane tower. Ocean Drake for exceL will be their first dragon of the game. Of course, Ocean Drake's at 18 minutes in the game, not the most impactful, but still, if you want to just lane for a little bit longer, if you want to get towards those 3 items, I'm sure exceL will be happy.
Yeah, because you got to look at the context of the game, where exceL want to slow this down as much as possible. They want to get to the later stages of play, whereas Misfits, they're the ones that want to try and pressure. They are really strong at this point in the game, and they were the ones with a gold lead for pretty much the first 18 minutes of play. But now, after losing that death, after losing the Drake, they have been forced to slow down, and now they're kind of regaining control over the map very steadily and slowly.
Do have them coming towards those 2-item power points, though. You can see Handsome on his way towards the Ginsu's Rage Blade alongside that Storm Razor. You've got the Trinity Force finished on Febiven, so if they can get Febiven in a strong position with vision control in a side lane, I don't really think there's anyone from exceL who can answer him easily. Maybe expeC on the Urgot could deal with the Irelia.
Oh, probably at this point in time, yeah. Like, expeC is really strong, but we're getting to a point where Yasuo can even 1v1 him.
Okay.
Now, he has what looks like a Hex Drinker kind of components, which surprises me. Because if anything, if you're going to send exceL off to a side lane, you ideally want him against Febiven because he doesn't have the teleport. So the fact that he's building magic resistance says that he's itemizing towards playing against sOAZ in a side lane. So I find that quite interesting in terms of their decision making. I guess they feel that expeC should do better into Febiven now that the shield changes happen to Irelia, so she should be less effective at taking down that champion.
Shield changes obviously 9.2. Irelia used to do bonus damage to shields, no longer does it.
So she would just melt through them before, but now she doesn't. Which is a bit of a shame.
It is a bit of a shame. They also took the disarm off her ultimate, which takes away some of her utility in teamfights, because Jeskla no longer needs to be as worried of a huge amount of CC, or a huge amount of time where he can't do anything. Slow is actually bigger than it used to be. 90% slow now.
Yes.
As opposed to a 70% slow before.
There is an element of CC there, but you're right. I agree that disarmament being taken. I thought it made the champion quite unique. but those are now gone. So we'll see how well Febiven can utilize her team fighting later on. I do feel like Misfits will gear more towards a bit of a 1-3-1 comp, even if their team fighting is still very strong. What direction will they go for now?
Well, they're setting up towards this Baron, but as we come over to the 20-minute mark, I think because the game has been quite slow and because exceL have played to their playstyle and Misfits haven't been able to eke that much out of it, I think we haven't really brought attention to the fact that exceL are 2,000 gold up at the 20-minute mark. They're in a very strong spot, and this is the team that pushed G2 to their limit last week, or the closest we've seen G2 go to their limit. And at this point, although I know Misfits are a strong team and their loss to Vitality was probably just an aberration, I do have to wonder how much of a chance exceL actually have of taking down Misfits.
Very true. If they keep the game going slow like this, then their chances of winning go up and up. They just have to be very careful at this point in the game. Misfits comp is very strong, and if a 4-5v5 breaks out, you kind of have to give the edge over to Misfits' composition. But you're right, the way in which exceL are playing right now, slow, steady, calm, not trying to force too many plays. They've taken all the outer towers. Like, they've been able to contest some of the Drake's Ocean is spawning soon, and if they can secure that one, they're going to be even. And so they can just continue to take their time. They can just be patient. And we know that their team fighting is good. We saw it against G2. The flanks that exceL found multiple times were great. Caedral setups were fantastic as well. And so far, he has once again been involved in 100% of exceL's kills. So you are right. The chance exists. They just have to be careful. They have to play towards their win conditions right now.
That seems to be what they're doing. You're looking at 2.5 items on Jeskla, 1.5, 1 3/4 on exceL as well. Just waiting for them to hit those real power points. And Misfits, at some point, have to take the bull by the horns. At some point, have to say, okay, we know if you scale up, you have a very strong team fighting composition. And it looks like what they're trying to do is get some deep vision in around this Baron, clear out the vision from exceL, and then force exceL to respond.
You're a great analyst, Medic. You just... I feel like me lending you my playbook could put me out of the job.
Yeah, that's obviously the major issue. You can see Maxlore looking for the engage, doesn't quite land. sOAZ, not going to go in with a full slicing maelstrom.
So that just zones exceL away from clearing the vision, so Misfits maintain control over the area. They weren't really looking for a fight right there, and I feel like because Maxlore's ultimate is on a relatively short cooldown, it'll be up and ready relatively soon, but it also means that exceL can now move into the enemy jungle and take away some of these control wards. So a bit of an exchange back and forth, but it looks like Misfits wanted to reset anyway as they all go back to base, and they'll just invest a bit more money into those wards.
So, Vedi, a lot of the time when we talk about Baron setups, we talk about deep vision. I don't really see exceL going for that super deep vision here, right? They're kind of making forays into the jungle, but I'm not seeing, you know, the red buff ward or the ward in this little pixel bush by the lane. Why aren't exceL really pushing that far forward?
So, the thing is right now, Misfits are in a better position to fight than exceL are. So, if exceL set up deep vision, what it means is that Misfits will easily walk into the river, they'll gain control over the river, and then exceL have vision of nothing. Because Misfits are just, they're not playing around the enemy side of the jungle. They pass the deep vision, so it's not helpful to them. So what exceL will often do is they'll set up vision around, like, you can see it just around the entrances as well, and they just kind of want to maintain a rough idea of what Misfits is up to, so that they can just interrupt and get in the way, but they don't care about setting up deep. What Misfits want to do is get the deep vision. They're the ones that actually want to set these wards out towards the blue buff of exceL, which right now they have been unable to do. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, it looks like exceL and sOAZ trading a bit. A couple of ultis were used there.
sOAZ forced away. exceL missed his ulti, but sOAZ is the one who's going to be backing after that. The wave pushing in as well in that bot lane.
Now that's a big ultimate that's unavailable, and Misfits are looking to play around Baron. So even though he has TP, Misfits trying to fight right now would be dangerous because they don't have that big damage dealing ulti available to them. So the rest of exceL continuing to scale, continuing to ramp up. Like again, like in these team fights later on, they should still be close, but you think of a 3-item Sivir and a 3-item Yasuo in a late game team fight, that is just so much damage, man.
It's actually exceL who are going to start the Baron up. Farsight alteration will spot them out in the pit. sOAZ down towards the bottom lane.
exceL's already here.
exceL is there, as you say, with the team. Has that unsealed spellbook as well. Switched to exhaust for the moment. sOAZ holding on to the teleport. Ultimate still a quarter away from cooldown. And exceL back away. They don't want to take the fight.
That was actually excellent patience from Misfits because remember that exceL had already committed his teleport, so exceL should have said, we are going for this fight regardless. We either turn an ulti, using the Sivir ult, or we just try and finish the Baron. We have to get sOAZ to TP in, but he didn't. He now has that teleport advantage over exceL. You'll note that he now has a level advantage, and he's even managed to get some chip damage onto this tower down bot, and it's now much harder for exceL to answer or play around that Baron. So while initially the play looked good, looked proactive, I think it was just very risky, and exceL were too afraid to commit, and immediately they end up coming out behind in that play.
It feels very much like the early game advantages we saw taken by both teams, you know, the top lane advantage for exceL and the bot and mid lane advantage for Misfits have now kind of just fizzled out. Like, we're not seeing that huge lead for Misfits in the bottom lane. Yes, you're about half an item ahead. In the mid lane, again, it's half, maybe a quarter of an item. But as we get towards 3 item spikes, really it's much more just about how these team compositions are going to work against each other and who initiates the team fight in their favor.
Certainly will be. I'm really looking forward to these fights because, as you said, it's been a... I don't know if it's been a slow game, but it has definitely been a low-action game.
I think it has been a measured game. Because I think there's always been something happening, but it's not been the action-packed games we expect from Misfits, right? Yes. Misfits are always... They're bloody games, right? We see high combined kills a minute, we see action all over the map, but whenever we see Misfits not play around bots, they tend to just be a bit more measured and a bit slower in their playstyle.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I agree.
As a note, a key from kaSing's keyboard fell off.
Oh.
So that's why we are waiting. He's reset it, I assume, ready to keep going. That would be the hope. I wonder if it was one of the keys he uses, or whether it was like just, you know, oh no, my Z key's fallen off. Although I use Z for chat.
I use Z.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I should have picked a key that I don't use, really.
What's the button next to 1 called?
I have no idea.
What is that?
It's like a little squiggly boy.
I don't know if that's the official term.
That's what we're calling it from now on. Oh, I'm so sorry, ref. My squiggly fell off. Back on into the action. The squiggly has been replaced, everyone, and we are on to Summoner's Rift once again. 25 minutes in, 4 kills between these two teams, but still 2,000 gold lead for exceL. I said it at 20 minutes. I'm now saying it 6 minutes later.
Their probability of success increases every minute that passes. exceL continuing to just buy time. Now again, the gold difference is still big between the two AD carries, but the main item differential actually comes from the fact that Jeskla hasn't completed his boots yet. That's it. Like, that attack speed is the difference, and once Jeskla goes back, I think he'll buy an Infinity Edge. That's what I'm expecting. Now, exceL has gone onto sOAZ.
Yeah, sOAZ pops the Slicing Maelstrom again, and that's all exceL needs to do. Walk up to him, get him to use that huge teamfight impacting ultimate, and then walk away.
Oh, there's the Infinity Edge, and I think exceL's TP is... So there we go. So I was wrong earlier. He never used his TP to join the Baron fight. He actually just walked up, and he already had a different summoner spell due to his unsealed spellbook. So my mistake, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize about that.
That's all right. You're forgiven.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. But as you mentioned, ultimate now available for sOAZ. exceL can walk into the Baron pit, zone the rest of Misfits away, and now, I've been saying it all game, Medic, 3 items is the point for exceL where they're like, ooh, we feel saucy, we feel ready to dance. Let's get onto the floor, and the Baron is their stage. So let's see if Misfits can tango the dance of exceL.
This is the power point for exceL. They're starting up the Baron. Misfits have all 5 members here, but sOAZ no ultimate, no Slicing Maelstrom. exceL still on the Baron. Misfits pushing down. sOAZ forced back by kaSing, down to about half HP. A great explosive cast separates the fight, and exceL now on the front foot, pushing forward towards Misfits. Febiven gets locked up, and a great stun from him will keep Caedral and Jeskla in their place. exceL get the kill they wanted. They do not get the Baron, but they have a man advantage.
Now, what did they burn to get that kill? That was ulti from 4 members, which means that if they try to fight again, it'll be a lot harder. Misfits know this. They disengage. They still have a lot of their tools available, but exceL saying, you have to come to us. We're starting the Baron again.
Febiven has his ult. Hansama his as well. Gorilla has his in reserve. No Glacial Prison, though, for Maxlore. No ability to just pinpoint one person. kaSing jumps in. He gets onto Hansama, looking for that stun lock. Hansama uses the supercharge to go invisible for the moment. kaSing forced back. Maxlore looking for the flank, can't quite find it. Febiven jumps in, the Vanguard's edge, doesn't disarm, but they catch onto Caedral. He flashes away. Good stun with a flawless duet. kaSing with another engage. Maxlore goes golden. He's in the middle of exceL. Gorilla pushing forward. The teleport coming in for sOAZ. He has the Slicing Maelstrom. Gorilla's dead. Jeskla survives, gets himself out alive, and exceL once again come out on top in the team fight.
Wow, exceL end up getting 2 kills overall, with sOAZ dying initially and Gorilla just dying then without losing a single remember. The gold lead goes in favor of them once again, but Misfits make their way back towards the Baron.
Forced straight back towards the Baron. They know Caedral had to back. Misfits can just start this up straight away, and it's up to exeL and expect to do something about it, because otherwise exeL might be dead. 8,000 on the Baron. Misfits, such a good call after losing the team fight. Here comes exeL. Expect there as well with the smite. Gets it, he kills it! Oh my god! Expect he gets the kill off the back of it as well! They get two! Holy hell, exeL, that was good!
And now exeL continue the chase. sOAZ trying to run for his life. He has no flash. He does have the E, but this should be enough to get them away. But exeL takes so much more. The Baron goes in their pockets. All 5 members are alive. Welcome to the late game, Misfits. This belongs to exeL.
The underdog's bark is way worse than their bike. They managed to get the kill. They steal it away with the unsealed spellbook smite. And now they push in against Misfits. No one would have expected it, but exeL have come to play.
Here they are. They're now sieging up towards this top inhibitor, but Hansama is angry.
sOAZ still has his ultimate. Expect's going to force him back. Jeskla on that inhibitor tower, mid down. Still at the top lane, just pushing back. kaSing dodges away. Means that Hansama can't go for that full-on engage. No inhibitor down yet. And exeL, measured, calm, patient once again, back away with a 7,000 gold lead.
And this has been such a fantastic demonstration from exeL, but ultimately they should have lost this Baron if it were not for Expect in this Alienware replay. Flashes in, gets the smite steal, and even more so, he then executes the jungler with a fadeaway. Beautiful stuff from Expect. But like that was all the Expect show right there. They invested in him in the early game. It was a slow, tempered game in the mid portion, but then he comes in, he changes to smite, he outsmites a jungler, and now with the Baron buff, exeL are primed and ready to siege onto the base of Misfits.
After losing to Vitality last week, Misfits would have wanted to come back swinging. I have no doubt they are one of the top teams here in Europe, but exeL have shown that they are in the LEC to take down these big names.
We said at the beginning of the day in Ready Check, one of your teams to watch has to be exeL. They forced G2 back so far. They almost won that game. If only a couple of things had changed, they could have done it. And now in this time, they picked the scaling comp. They've gotten to late game. And now they're putting the pressure onto Misfits. You can see sOAZ in the bot side trying to trade, but he has to go back to base. His ultimate is available. Can Misfits find a fight to keep them alive?
Here he comes, back to base. Slicing Maelstrom up, no flash for him. Maxlore standing on the front line. kaSing uses the Hex Flash across the wall. Explosive Castle knocks them back. That's the inhibitor tower down. Now looking for the inhibitor as well. Jeskla pops the ult. Keeps exeL in the right spot for the time being. Now pushing towards mid. They rotate. Double cannon wave pushing in means Misfits have to respond at some point. Hansama gets some damage down, but exeL take the second inhibitor and back out. There's a Mountain Dragon there for them if they want it. sOAZ looking for the opportunity to strike, has that Slicing Maelstrom still, and Misfits are not giving up on this game.
You can see how hard it is for Misfits to force a fight in this situation. Clumped up as a 5-man unit, exeL and Jeskla are just so strong on their respective champions that Misfits are afraid to engage. Hansama and Febiven not level 16 just yet. sOAZ too afraid to jump in, especially with the Gragas that could knock him away if he doesn't time that Zhonya's properly. And now at the very least, Misfits will be able to get a dragon back, but exeL have looked so good.
Small solace for Misfits here, the Mountain Dragon, their third of the game, 32 minutes in. Next up will be an Elder if we get to that point, but you're looking at Infinity Edge on exeL. He's finished that 3-item build. You're looking at Infinity Edge on Jeskla alongside an extra BF sword. That discrepancy between the AD carries is well and truly null and void, and look at that spike. exeL just able to snowball this game away at the 30 minute mark.
And the reality was that for Misfits, they needed to be more proactive when they were stronger. Their bot lane carry and their mid lane carry were in a prime position to do that, but they just failed to force against exeL. exeL were able to stall out, and now we're at this point. They got a Baron steal, they've secured 2 inhibitors, and now they're sieging onto the final inhibitor tower.
Down to half HP. Super Minions pushing in the side lanes. The wave's not in the best of spots for exeL yet. They can wait it out. Baron buff has expired. 2 minutes left before the next Baron spawns.
They might even be able to... Okay, dive is a little risky because of how strong Hansama still is.
And sOAZ still has that ultimate with
yeah, so they shouldn't dive then. They should just wait for the super minions to push in both bot and mid. You can see double supers in the bot lane as well. exeL, they don't need to force anything. Take their time. They've got more than enough wave clear. They will slowly chip that tower down. They just need to be patient. They're so close to getting another upset. I say their first upset rather, but here we go.
exceL pops the cleanse. Febiven knocked back. exceL there with the last bet. Hansama doing a lot of damage here, though. He's still alive in the back of this fight. exeL's going to go down into the GA. kaSing keeping sOAZ away from the fight. Great stuff, zoning out that Kennen. You can see exeL trying to get the damage down. sOAZ goes golden right the right moment. Hansama jumps in! That's 2 for Hansama! sOAZ goes down as well, but Jeskla almost took down Maxlore offside as well. Caedral expecting Jeskla can still push in here because Misfits are so low.
That was actually a fight in favor of Misfits, but their base is falling apart. They have to go back and defend, which allows the 3 members of exeL to secure themselves another inhibitor. Misfits on full base defense mode.
They're looking for the Nexus tower. Jeskla is the one on the front line, but you have to think you back away.
Gonna die.
So low, doesn't die. exeL jumps onto Febiven. Febiven not able to survive for that long. He goes golden. Maxlore forced away as well. It's Jeskla. It's all on him. He gets 1. Maxlore forced away, pulled back into the meat grinder, and Misfits have been ground up by exeL this game. Hansama jumps in. Jeskla goes golden. Hansama's down, and you have to think Misfits are down as well. Jeskla survives, and exeL cement their place in the LEC.
Huge win for exeL as they shut down Misfits. The underdogs that you have to respect. This team fought tooth and nail against G2 Esports. They bought time against Misfits. And in the late game, they came out on top. They played around the Baron well. Admittedly, you have to take into consideration if exeL didn't get that smite steal, does this game look the same way?
No.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It happened. exeL got the steal. He was able to secure it. And then off the back of that, they just worked their way into the base of Misfits. They systematically dismantled them. And while Misfits still looked scary in that late game fight, it just was not enough to shut down this exeL squad.
2 weeks in a row, exeL have shown us that they are not to be trifled with.
But this time they get
coming out with a win.
Yeah.
Yes, 2 and 3 now across the course of their games. Until today, they had only beaten Rogue. And now they really look like playoff contenders. Misfits, on the other hand, it's another loss, but it wasn't so bad that I think you count them out from that, podium spot. They are still the team we saw go 3-0.
So again, though, like, to not talk on Misfits too much, because this is a huge win for exeL, but to me what we're seeing again is if Misfits fail to play through their bot lane, then they don't turn this into wins. That is so far the only way they've won games in the LEC. Their 3 wins came from snowballing bot, their bot lane runs away with the game, and then they look extremely dominant. In the game they played around top, they lost. In the game they ganked mid once, they didn't really do much else, they've lost. And so you have to bring into question, can Misfits do much else outside of playing around their bot lane? But regardless, what we did see from exeL was much calmer play, very patient. They knew exactly how to play it on the team fights. The final team fight was definitely a little scrappy, but again, it didn't really matter because they knew that there was pressure elsewhere. Yeah. So in their head, they were like, we can afford to be a little risky here. We don't have to wait for the next Baron because even if a fight happens, we know that Misfits are going to lose something.
Even if they lose the fight, they know that Misfits are going to lose enough, right? Because you've already taken down that inhibitor in the top lane. Yes, it was a little bit messy, but exeL, they wanted the win any way they could get that win, and they definitely deserved it today.
Yeah, I was really impressed. Again, Caedral cementing himself as the guy that makes stuff happen. He ganks a lot up in the top lane. I think he may have even been close to 100% kill participation again this time around. But you have to give a shout out to the support kaSing. In those Baron fights, he was phenomenal on this Alistar. Really good play from him, and I'm sure he's going to be extremely happy after that crushing defeat against G2.
Well, I'm sure he's going to be extremely sad because I've got an important question for you as well. Key player of the game is exeL, Jeskla, and exeL. No kaSing in the voting. I think both of us would have gone there, support main. You think he's an amazing player. All supports are the best. Be sure to visit @LollySports on Twitter and vote. If you were going to give it to one of those guys.
I mean, it's exeL. You have to give it to exeL. Yeah. He won them the game at the end of the day.
I personally think that Jeskla has a very good shout for it as well. No. His late game team fights were actually really good.
I think Jeskla did his job. Which I think is fine for an AD carry. Was it MVP worthy for me? No. I think expecting Caedral definitely had a larger impact in the overall victory of this game.
I will give you that. Well, for more on exeL's win, let's check in with Laure and their jungler.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you, Caedral, for joining me after the game. Now, I will not repeat what you said about Maxlore before the game, and you won't. But what did you think about your performance today against him?
I think we played pretty well. I think me and exeL were on the same page today, and we played really well together. I expected Maxlore to be top more when we were fighting a lot, but he was never really there. So yeah, I expected a lot of 2v2s, but it was a bit of a 2v1.
And it's a victory in the end. I mean, you almost took down G2. You just took down Misfits, two of the biggest team in the LEC right now. Do you think people have been underestimating you guys so far?
Yeah, I think people underestimate us, and that's why we take control of the game most of the times against good teams. I think we had a really, really bad week of practice. Like, it's been really rough this week, but towards the end of the week, it became better, and we went in this game with nothing to lose, and it just shows how good we can be when we want to win.
How do you go from having a bad week in scrims from showing so much on stage?
Yeah, I have no idea.
What is your strength right now as a team, do you think?
I think as a team, we're really willing to give up resources for other players. Like, I think everyone on our team can carry. Like, exeL, xPec, Jeskla, they all can carry. And I think I'm quite flexible as well. Like, if my team needs me to play a tank, I can play a tank. If they need a carry in the jungle, I can play a carry.
And we'll see if you can bring some more flexibility tomorrow. You'll have another challenge, facing Schalke and Fear. What is your mindset about this one?
Well, it's my old team, my old teammates, Upset and Mento. I think they're really good. Like, I think people are underestimating how good Schalke was at the start of the split. Like, they've come into this week, in this split, like, just performing really well. And I think their players are really good, so it'll be quite hard, I think.
And we'll see about this tomorrow. Thank you for joining me
Thank
for
you.
now. And for more on this game, let's send it back to Trevor at the desk.
Thank you very much, Laure. And what a game. That was absolutely exhilarating. And it was not at all what I was anticipating, but I really enjoyed watching it.
I know that when we kicked this one off, like, we were just like, you know, you cover the nameplates. I actually really like exeL's composition, but we're like, no, it's Misfits. They'll win. Of course they'll win.
But apparently not, right?
Yeah.
Okay, look, I tell you what. Before we get distracted,
man.
we actually do have some replays. I want to jump straight into the game-defining minute. It's around 27 minutes into the game, the game-defining play, I should say. And it starts with exeL actually starting off the Baron. Now, this wasn't the first time they did it, but maybe Frosk, talk me through what you liked about, first of all, how Misfits pushed exeL out of the pit.
So the thing is that they didn't want to pull the teleport. They know that they just want to zone them off, and I believe, what? No, this is the wrong replay.
So this is how it starts off. We're starting with the game-winning team.
Oh,
so we'll get to the TP one later.
This is that defining moment. And I want to shout out to Febiven. This was a rough game, as he wasn't quite ahead as he wanted to be after that first play, but had some excellent plays in this fight, both the ulti and the flawless duet to land, sOAZ not quite enough. And really, this feels like a position where I wanted to see Hatsama go in and take a big risk. He didn't take a lot of those risks this game, and I do think it cost Misfits in some of those opportunities where they could have come back. But really, when it comes down to us, let's just write a complaint letter to the Balance team about what Summoner Spellbook. Why does it let people outsmite me and embarrass me in the pit? I would assume that that's what Maxlore is thinking, because this is happening a lot right now.
It's also the flash on top of it with like the flash to stain combo, moving faster than Malphite ultimate when an Urgot actually pulls that one off. So it was not only the change into the smite to outsmite, but the fact that he was instantly on top of you.
Insult to injury, really what it felt like there in that final moment. It just my God, expect.
It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. It's why Expect is one of the candidates for Kia Player of the Game.
And if he doesn't get it, it's
doesn't
a crime.
win, you are trolling.
The reason I wanted to start with the hype moment first is this game was sort of defined by those Baron plays. The next replay we have, Froskurinn, was Misfits actually doing something significantly better, significantly more psychological, by forcing exeL out of the pit without burning any summoner spells. So pull that replay up onto the screen, and then Frost, talk me through about how you really enjoyed the setup, because off air, you were just jumping for joy.
I love smart plays like this, and we've kind of coined with Misfits being like this very intelligent veteran style team. Now they recognize that fighting exeL is just terrifying right now. And so what they know is that sOAZ is just getting destroyed in the side lane, and he doesn't have his ultimate available, but he does have the TP. They don't want to fight. Without the Kennen ultimate, there's no point in fighting, but they must delay the Baron. So Misfits just flirt with danger and try to play chicken with exeL on this Baron. And it actually pays off, because while sOAZ does stop, because he's like, if we can't force them off of this, then I will teleport in, but he actually holds his summoner. And I was just so impressed that Misfits had the patience to make a play like that.
And of course, the replay did end just a tad short. What ended up happening, Misfits stepped forward, placed that control ward in the pit, and exeL were like, oh, what if Kennen comes? Don't want this, don't want to risk it. And they backed away. Look, exeL stepped up, they took down Misfits. I think we have to call out some of sOAZ's decision-making, the conceding first blood early on.
You
He
can
did
call
not have
out
a great game.
a lot of it. And I don't want to like point fingers and say like it was absolutely sOAZ's fault, but ultimately there was a point in the game where exceL were able to sit in a 4-1 so comfortably because Urgot was winning the side lane so hard. The longer that they stood over there, the more that Urgot was just going to win that side lane for him. It just helped that he also went to the Baron, got the steal, and won the Baron fight for them. But exceL were totally in a position of power at almost every single point.
And really the big issue for me is I think Caedral pointed out in his interview is that Maxlore didn't go top a lot to set up this Kennen pick for success. And when you draft this Kennen Irelia, especially into this Urgot Yasuo, you really want to be ahead. Because in late game, if you're ahead as Irelia, you have so much kill pressure without your ultimate, you can just leap onto the Yasuo. But if you're ever relying on landing that dream ultimate in a Yasuo with wind wall, he just holds on to it and your teamfight impact is so minimal. That Kennen when he's behind against a Gragas.
We actually do have the picks and bans. I think if we can pull that up. The reason I want to pull that up right now is we're talking about the Kennen Irelia. There was a last-second swap from Sion to Irelia. Now, I'm reimagining these Baron scenarios, and I'm reimagining these fights, and I'm going, what if Febiven was running in with Sion, and sOAZ had a little bit more time to peel or set up the Slicing Maelstrom? I know hindsight is 2020.
But the issue is that like sOAZ fell behind in isolation, right?
Fair.
And the second that AP Kennen falls behind, that pick is so bad. You have some comeback potential, but against a Gragas, you just get knocked out of every fight. Not against a Gragas, beautiful pick. Love it. Against a Gragas, you just get knocked away.
From the very beginning, it's the fact that it's a ban also on Jace, and then the priority pick of the Urgot. So Odo has shown repeatedly, we've been saying it all day, Kennen works really well into Urgot. Why he's so dominant is he's one of the few ranged top laners up there, and Kennen can actually deal with that. And by also taking away the Jace, it's like forcing you to the Kennen. It's going to be Kennen Urgot, and then the fact that no one paid attention to the Gragas. As soon as that Urgot pick and the Kennen came out, I turned to you and I said, that's a free Gragas pick if I've ever seen one. I thought it was going to be Gragas support, but Caedral grabs it into the in the jungle, and then I'm like, this is also a possibility of a Yasuo. And it was almost this flirtation of, is the last pick for Febi going to be a Syndra? And that's what it felt like it was setting up to, but as soon as the Yasuo was locked in, he had to pivot and find something else.
And at the end of the day, like we're really fired up about the draft because I do feel like, something could have been a little bit different there. I don't like it, but one credit to Misfits is that fight around the Baron pit that eventually led to the Baron attempt, that took some confidence to pull off. And it was impressive, and it does give hope to Misfits even in this loss that they turned around what compositionally should have been an impossible to win fight.
They were down to about 3,000 gold as well, so I really like the fact you step back and you look at the bigger picture of the game. There are critiques for both teams, but there's a lot to celebrate as well.
You're so disciplined. You're so disciplined.
I'm trying to be very, very calculated with my word usage, but I can reveal to you that the key player of the game is no surprise. It is expected that exceL picks it up. 82% of the votes. Last week, exceL got so close to taking down G2 in the 45-minute cracker. Today, they take down Misfits. And for a brand new organization to the stage, to put Misfits on a 0-2 loss streak, this is an exciting turn of events. And it makes me more interested to see what exceL can continue to do. And also, how does Misfits bounce back?
It ultimately, just to echo what Vedius was saying, there are cracks in the Misfits armor. When they have not carried through bot lane, they are not finding the same success. sOAZ was punished very heavily this time around in the side lane. Febiven, while he got an early start, started to stall out, and there was just mis-execution on what their composition wanted to do.
Well, finish just before we head off.
Yeah, and for me as a last point for exceL, because I do want to end on a positive here, I do have to give a shout out to Exile. This is a guy that I have personally criticized repeatedly. His inconsistency has cost so many teams, Unicorns of Love actually, mostly just Unicorns of Love, many games, apologies. But this year he has actually been very good. He's been very consistent, and yes, he did die in the early game, but the fact that Exile is not taking these massive risks is a huge boon for this team, and he's finally coming back to that ceiling that we knew he had when he first entered the league.
He just needed a jungler to camp him, and now he's got one.
He needed a jungler, and that is also one of the most controversial figures in the jungle role. It is Caedral. We do not have enough time to dive into that one. Thank you very much. When we return, it is time for our match of the week as Vitality take on Origin. Don't miss it. That was fun. That was super fun.
sOAZ should have spotted him.
Engage, there's the disdain. Caedral with a follow-up engage, and sOAZ not going to flash away, doesn't want to burn it. First blood, exceL. Gorilla goes golden, Hansama underneath the tower. Great knockback, perfectly timed there from Caedral. Expect there as well with the smite, gets it, he kills it! Oh my god! Expect, he gets the kill off the back of it as well! They get two! Holy hell, exceL, that was good! good. Expect jumps onto Febiven. Febiven not able to survive for that long. He goes golden. Maxlore forced away as well. It's Jeskla. It's all on him. He gets one. Maxlore forced away, pulled back into the meat grinder. And Misfits have been ground up by exceL this game. Hansama jumps in. Jeskla goes golden. Hansama's down. And you have to think Misfits are down as well. Jeskla survives. And exceL cement their place in the LEC.
We are powered up.
Get the Baron Buff Power Play with shell V-Power.